Monsieur Arcand, as a young man in the province of Quebec in the Depression, you came to the conclusion that fascism offered the best solution to your problems. Why was this?
Well, one must first define what the word fascism means. The word fascism was used in Italy, Nazism in Germany, Phalangism in Spain, Rexism in Belgium. It means nationalism, control of a nation by its nationals. In those years, I had studied mostly history, and I had discovered, with several others, that the First World War had been the beginning of a revolt against the high culture and civilization of the West. The unique result of the First World War had been to implant communism in Russia, the most strategic place in the world because touching Europe, Near East, and Asia. And it was visible that the Second World War was brewing in order to widen the scope of communism, spread it. And in fact, I still have the writings. I wrote that the Second World War was coming, that it would smash down the empires of the Western world and spread communism much farther on both sides of the world. And it happened.
But weren't there other reasons apart from nationalism and your fear of communist advance? Didn't you share many of the other views of the fascists that...
Yes. To save our high culture and civilization from negations. I am on the far right. Some others, like Mr. René Lévesque, says he is on the far left. What's the difference between right and left? The right affirms the sum total of tradition, which has made our high culture and its civilization. The existence of a God and his rights, the existence of a human soul and the dignity of man, freedom, private property, the sacred rights of family, free enterprise, the free activity of free men in free markets under free enterprise, whilst socialism, as defined by the Soviet Constitution, denies God, denies the human soul, denies freedom, the dignity of man, the sacred rights of family, free enterprise, private initiative, private property. On one side you have positive, affirmative, and constructive affirmations. On the other side you have only negations of that without offering any substitute for it. No alternative.
But at the same time, isn't it true that in your writings you denied this kind of individualism by being against democracy, the liberal democratic state?
We have not democracy. We have the party system. Democracy is the affirmation of classes. And the other side wants a classless society. And they are waging a class warfare to bring about a dictatorship of the proletariat, as said in the Russian Constitution, in order to rule over all classes deprived of their rights, natural rights, as we have them today.
Well, I would add to this, I can't agree with you on all of that, but I would think that a denial of the liberal democratic state goes a long way to denying certain things that we think are part of our dignity as an individual. I was also thinking, however, of the very strong strain of anti-Semitism in your writing, which again is a denial of
There is no
liberty.
anti-Semitism. It never existed. It's a polemical word for propaganda. What I believe and what I get from all authors, Jewish or others, what is called anti-Semitism is a natural, autopathic reaction against an assault of anti-Gentilism.
Well, you wrote a good deal, didn't you, about the Jewish conspiracy and the...
Yes,
Do you still believe that?
I believe it because I read it in Jewish authors. Read what Lord Beaconsfield, Benjamin Disraeli wrote in the Life of Lord George Bentinck. Read what Mr. Maurice Samuel wrote in I the Jew, or and You Gentiles, the other book. We Jews are the destroyers and will destroy forever until we have a world of our own. And after explaining what communism was, Benjamin Disraeli says, and all this because Jews want to destroy that ungrateful Christendom whose tyranny they can no longer endure. Always destruction.
You've also said...
They are not liars. I believe what they say. And if you look at facts, you see that they're always at the head of those subversive movements to destroy our high culture and our civilization.
Now, just to move away from that for a minute, you said, I think, in the spring of 1940 that, or late in 1939, that in the spring of 1940, your national unity, or could we call it the Nazi Party, would take office in Ottawa. Why did you believe that?
I was informed in 1938, whilst the Civil War was raging in Spain, while there were sitting strikes in the United States, in France under Mr. Léon Blum, that there was to be an attempt of revolution throughout the world, World Civil War in 1940. I thought that our country, as it is in its spirit and traditions, would overcome a leftist revolution, and we would be in power. And powers that be, high above, feared so much a world civil war that they organized a general war in order to avoid it. But the results were the same. The European empires were all smashed down. The British Empire and the French and Belgium and the Dutch leaning on it. And you have a revolt against Europe. But Europe has won. They have not destroyed the soul of Europe. Europe today is becoming a nation. We are in the economic century. It started with economics, and it's going to be politics tomorrow. And the common bloc today in Europe is economically stronger than the leftist bloc of the socialists and even the American bloc of the international capitalists.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you were a man of the far right. There is a man in Quebec now who has achieved a certain prominence who also claims to be of the far right, Réal Cahouette, who also has expressed a certain amount of admiration for Hitler and Mussolini.
Yes, and rightly so, because I believe that he has read, as I did, the book of Sir Winston Churchill, published a few months before the 1939 war. That book is step by step. And in it he says about this, I cannot quote word for word, I have met Hitler. He is certainly a great man, sincere. He has done prodigies to uplift a country that was fallen to the bottom. And mind what he says. If ever England would fall so low as Germany did, I would pray God that he sent to England an English Hitler to do here what the other one has done for his country, Germany.
Do you think that Réal Cahouette comes in this class of great men?
I've met him once.
Do you support him in his views?
He is sincere, he is convinced, full of energy, but it's too bad that he has such a stupid, unnatural, what he calls philosophy. It's not even a philosophy, ideology. I have corresponded with Major Douglas. I have corresponded with Mr. Aberhart. I spent 2 days in Ottawa discussing with Mr. John Blackmore, Mr. Solonlow. They're all sincere and convinced men, very honest, and they could never answer my questions. I put their theory upside down to see clear and sense.
Well, I think that you might say then that social credit represents many of the ideas that you possess, except for the A plus B theorem and their fiscal policy.
Well, that's sheer nonsense.
The fiscal policy. Well, I'm afraid that we've got to get off. We've used up all our time. Thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you, sir.